So thank you all for coming. This is the last Justice Forum for this academic year. I'm Nelly Parugia, as probably you know, and it is an incredible honor and joy to have here today with us these incredible musicians and pedagogues, about whom I'm going to speak in a second, especially about Helga. But before I do that, let me thank once again Ioannidis Rodriguez, Ferguson. I'm sorry, who runs Casa Hispánica for all practical purposes for allowing us to use this lovely space, and Bruno Bustillos, who's not here, but who initially gave us a space. Eileen Lully, who makes this possible, Sylvia Gidnick, who also makes this possible, and Lindsay Schrank, who's not here, who also makes this possible. I also want to thank Ivan Kela, who just keeps going back and forth, and he keeps everything in line, and he tells me what to do and what not to do, and I listen to God. And all of you for coming. So I just want to say that no, before I do that, let me just say that Alkinoos Ioannidis and Helga Davis are with us tonight. They're also going to be with us on Letters at the Letters Humanism seminars in the summer, the last week of June. Alkinoos is going to give a talk, also a public lecture here on the 15th of the month. And he's also going to give a public concert at the forum on April the 22nd, from 7 to 9. 6:30 to 8. 6:30 to 8. 6:30 to 8. All right. The title of this forum here is Music of the Oppressed. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the oppressed in the sense of Paulo Freire and maybe Illich also, right? Of not just the immediately oppressed, but the way in which we can open up music, we can open up education, we can open up pedagogy, and try to work on creating a society which will not be a society of the oppressed. So that was the original idea. Then Helga and Alkinoos will tell us what they made out of this, because this, as Eileen says, all lives in my head. And then I'm lucky when people actually can decipher what's in my head. So the title is Music of the Oppressed, Tradition, Untradition, and the Unschooling of Music, a conversation between Helga Davis and Alkinoos Ioannidis, moderated by Stanis Rivers. So the question of tradition is a question that we have been discussing for a long time. And tradition for Alkinoos and tradition for Helga is a concept that is located in different spaces. But at some point, their understanding of tradition just comes and gels, and the need for it to be undone. So therefore you get this really weird words here about emancipatory project of music and e-womancipatory and e-humancipatory, which is what I was trying to do when I was thinking about it. So Helga Davis is a Harlem native. She's a multifaceted, critically acclaimed artist, curator, and cultural convener, widely respected for her expansive creative practices. She is currently an inaugural advisor to Brown University Arts Institute, working on curatorial and programming initiatives, and a teaching artist mentor for the Park Avenue Armory Youth Corps. In spring 2023, she was commissioned by National Sawdust and the Onassis Foundation to write her work based on C.P. Cavafy's poetry for Brooklyn children's chorus and an orchestra, and featuring herself as soloist and conductor. I cannot tell you the experience of being present when Helga conducts the chorus and then walks through the church and starts singing. It is something that you just have to live in everyone's imagination or desire. Between 2019 and 2022, Helga was a Mellon Foundation funded Creative Futures Fellow at UNC in Chapel Hill. She has a radio podcast on New York Public Radio called Helga, which is now in its 6th season and which unfolds as a long-form conversation engaging artists across disciplines to explore current cultural issues with really rare candor. She was the winner of the 2019 Greenfield Prize in Composition and a 2019 Alpert Award finalist. Her new artistic venture is the study and application of conduction, all in capital letters, a method of spontaneous composition developed by Loris Douglas Butchmores. Helga was a principal performer in the 25th anniversary revival of Robert Wilson and Philip Glass's Einstein on the Beach. In Robert Wilson and Bernice Johnson Briggs' The Temptation of St. Anthony, Tasha Reagan's Parable of the Sower, and in Corey Bryant's Yet Unheard, among many others. As a curator, Helga developed performances at the Met and recently completed a 3-year position as a visiting curator for the performing arts at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. She has collaborated with Nick Cave, Claudia Rankin, David Byrne, Bill T. Jones, Solange, Glenn Ligon, and many others. And she serves on the board of the Jerome Foundation. Alkinoos Ioannidis he was born in Nicosia, Cyprus. He is both Greek and Cypriot. He studied classical guitar at the European Conservatory. In 1989, Alkinoos moved to Athens, Greece, where he spent the next 3 years studying theater at the National Theatre Drama School and philosophy at Athens University. In 1993, he signed to Universal Music. As a singer-songwriter, Alkinoos has performed on more than 40 albums with various artists. He has also written music for dance and theater, while his symphonic work is often performed by orchestras in Greece and abroad. His influences range from traditional Cypriot music, Greek composers of the last decades, Byzantine, classic, and rock. His classical work was performed in Berlin Philharmonic Kammermusikal by the Camerata Europea and the Ernst Sandford, and at the Athens Concert Hall with the Cyprus Symphony Orchestra. His work has been the opening concert of the White Nights Festival of Petrozavodsk in Russia, with the Karelia Philharmonic Orchestra presented by the Hermitage Symphony Orchestra in St. Petersburg's Philharmonium. It was better when it was called Leningrad. It's easy. Germany, by Thuringian Symphonica. He's also the flutist, percussionist, and singer of the avant-garde group FMS, Friends of Wilders of Flute. Alkinoos Ioannidis has worked as an actor, playing leading roles in ancient drama at the Ibdaros Theatre in Greece, and more recently has been working with youth musicians in Greece, in Volos and Leros. And I also need to tell you that he got his first platinum record when he was 22 years old. 23. Stavros Gorgounis is a friend of Justice Forum and many other things. He's a poet, an essayist, translator, a sound artist, and professor of classics, English, and comparative literature here at Columbia. He writes very opinionated pieces on contemporary politics and culture in newspapers and internet media, in both Greek and English. He is a recipient of a Guggenheim Fellowship in 2022, a former president of the Modern Greek Studies Association, and a former director of the ICLS from 2009 to 2015. He's a member of the Supplemental Artists Collective, which releases his music and sound art positions under the name of Count G. So I will only keep time. The floor is yours, and so are the instruments, as it was told to Galileo.
By the moment. You're the moderator. I will not presume to moderate this two extraordinary individual. I think that we're a self-governing body, and we start according to how you planned to start.
We had no plan.
Okay, one has to step forth, then start.
But I actually think it's a great idea not to have a plan. And we need to not have more plans. Because sometimes plans keep us from doing the work that's right in front of us. So we plan, and we plan to do things that are out there on another block, in another family, in another country. And we completely bypass the work that is here for us where our feet are. And so this thing of music as a protest is a really important way of living. I just want to mention very briefly one of the things that's part of my CV now is Butch Morris's conduction. And conduction is a language. It's a language that any person can learn. And then what you do with the language is you make stuff. So there are signals for every possible thing you can do in music. So there's a sign to repeat, there's a sign for a downbeat. And what I find intriguing about the practice of conduction is that it allows you to take the rules, completely toss them, if you wish, because that's also an option, and make something new in real time. And I can't stress how important and how revolutionary an idea this has been for me as a musician and as a human in this mess. Why don't we call it that? Because that's what it is. In this mess of life. And I've been teaching conduction. I've been studying, which is also a big thing that people miss out on. They think we don't study. So that the language is then useful in whatever way we need for it to be useful. If you behave yourselves, I'll teach you something before we leave here. So I'm very, very much interested in deconstructing, but not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, always, and understanding what there is to do right now. I think we should start with this video here. So I was asked to be at a music festival, and I don't remember what was happening, but I know I was very angry. And I needed, as we all do, to figure out what to do with that anger that was useful. Oh, there I am. Okay. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, say, can you see? The dawn's early light, 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 light. What so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars put through the perilous fight. On the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets red, yeah. Bombs. Bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum. Big finish. Actually, maybe you'll help me. Won't you help me sing this song of freedom? It's all I ever. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet or the land of the free and the home of the brave. So why would I do that to our national anthem? There's that. Yes, that's right, because I can. And also,
There are different layers, there are different ways in which you can.
different layers, different ways.
Say it different ways.
But there's also the idea that it defines us in some way. And that what everybody wants to be able to do is to do what they want to do and sing that song. And make everything that they do okay because they sing that song. And so what happens if that song can also be its own bomb? By pulling it apart and by listening to it and making the music of it in a way that serves a different purpose. And then to make an audience or have an audience also be complicit in the destruction of this thing that we all seem to need so badly. this thing that we all need to be able to sing, this thing that we think is the only thing that brings us together and makes us American. I say. That's my no to that. I happened to perform that once in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh is not your New York crowd. And many of the people there had family in the military, and they felt very disrespected. And that somehow I was thumbing my nose at them and at their parents and their brothers and their sisters and their cousins and their uncles who not only had served in the military, but were serving in the military. But it was an opportunity to have a conversation about why I, an African-American woman, would make the decision and what it means to me and to the people whose shoulders I stand on to make this decision. And so it's one of the ways in which music can serve as protest and defiance, but also as a call to something, a call to self, a call to your neighbor. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
I'm not sure. I'm not saying. I've been studying Spanish for the past year, and at that age when you try to put something into your mind, something else pops out. And I think I forgot my English, so I decided to write something in order for me to be safe here and don't mess up. So I wrote this, but then I didn't bring my glasses.
That's perfect.
Make us, make us.
I can try and read it, but okay. First of all, I would like to say that for me, all music is music of the oppressed, right? There is no music that isn't of the oppressed. All the music I know was written and was played and was sung and was listened by the oppressed. Well, thank you. And I come from Cyprus. Cyprus is a small island. It's not small. It's a huge island. Yeah, because this how we feel. In the Mediterranean, in the Eastern Mediterranean, which has been occupied by many conquerors through the centuries. It's a very old civilization, dating back to 9,000 or 10,000 BC. So in its modern history, it has been free for 14 years, 14, from 1960 until 1974. Before that was a British colony. Before the British were the Ottomans. So forth goes forth. This should be so back. Yeah. So all the music, actually all the music of my home country was written by oppressed people, by conquered and occupied people. So for me, it's so obvious that music is something that comes from oppressed people. Even those who think that they are free, they're not. I mean, even Johann Sebastian Bach was oppressed, right? He was working for some powerful guy in order for him to feed his many children. Yeah, we are all oppressed one way or another, even by our own selves, right? And this oppression makes us sick, makes us want to write, makes us want to be with other people, sing with them, and live something that is not of this world, because music, and for me especially song, it is something out of this world. It's the best means for this transcendence from the deepest part of ourselves to the farthest point in universe. And now I'm going to start reading because I have Leah's glasses. Great. Yeah. So whenever I write a song, I don't do it just because I want to sing it, but also because I need to listen to it. I write it as a listener. Every composer or songwriter is at the same time the author and the audience of their work. Singers are both the transmitters and the receivers of their voice. Same, good teachers for me are those who, when they teach, they remain students. They share a miracle, or at least a curriculum, with their class, with the people that are both their students and classmates. While through this sharing, they get schooled themselves, discovering new things both about their case and about those whom they teach. Whenever students are approached by the teacher with empathy, companionship, and recognition, then this communication, this heartily sharing, uses curriculum as a means for the off-the-curriculum experience that is obtained, which is the most essential knowledge that one can ever give or take. We all know that the goal of education cannot be the dry, sometimes dangerous storage of knowledge in children's brains. In each lesson, the goal can only be the uncovering of a small aspect of our existence that was unknown to us until then, and was revealed occasioned by the curriculum or by the concentrated presence of humanity. Concentrated presence of humanity, because that's what good books, good teachers, and good lessons are. This off-curriculum bilateral teaching that runs in parallel with the material given by the Ministry of Education or the head of any institute, this existential sharing, it is what turns the boring show of a mediocre actor-teacher standing in front of bored to death childish eyes into a ritual. One of the requisites of both theater and music is to go back to the ritual from which they emerged. I would have the same expectation from education as well. We need to recognize our height and our depth, openly mirroring each other, both teachers and students, both musicians and audience. But how can we achieve that? Surely not by repeating in an inspired manner the given curriculum, asking the children to be mandatorily interested, while we remain indifferent and while the books remain soulless without our soul. Teachers only achieve this by putting their whole selves into their teaching, with method and knowledge, of course, but also with freedom, openness, and most of all, honesty, with no guarantees and no safety nets. We artists find ourselves shaking every time before exposing ourselves to the audience. Some of us just go on stage and do our little job, which is difficult enough anyway. Great artists, though, despite their fear, take the step into their abyss to find the miracle and share it with us. Often paying the price with their lives, they make our lives priceless. That's why we distinguish them and hold their presence dear. Human soul always finds the way to share its uniqueness, even in a specific given frame. Many well-trained and technically perfect musicians play the same work, the exact same notes. What makes some of them stand out? I believe that it is the way they share themselves under or into the work they are playing, having its part as a means. Through a given frame, they speak to us about themselves in such a deep, sincere, unprotected, unguarded, disarming way that they end up speaking about ourselves. They reveal their core where we recognize our own core. That's why we relate to them. Same, when good teachers trust and give themselves to their students, their lesson becomes worth attending. Arts, especially when not suppressed or directed by authorities, are super powerful survival tools, helping us learn how to coexist, understand each other, share our differences, and create together. Arts are heartlessly exiled more and more from the educational systems around the world, considered maybe as less useful in the development of children or society. Theater and music are the two inclusive, collaborative arts that, when we need to describe the action of getting involved with them, we use the verb play. I play music, I play theater, I play in a movie, I play a song, right? We never say, for example, I play paint or I play literature. It's the same in all languages, but wrongly. Wrongly, yeah. But and it's the same in all the languages I know or I understand a little, except for Spanish and Portuguese. That they use an even better expression. They say tocar música, which means I touch music. It's magic. So when my children were younger, every time I had to leave home for a concert, they would ask me where I was going, and I would say, I'm going to play. With your friends? Yes, with my friends. So at least for them, I never worked in my life. Wouldn't it be incredible for us, both students and teachers, to be able to say, I play school, or I play a lesson? Playing is a rehearsal of life. And if life is sacred, then playing is sacred too. But in order to play, you need to get creative. Playing is the natural way for children to get creative and explore themselves and the world. And I believe we should be playing with them. Teachers are like maestros. They are asked to moderate different instruments. Each one of those makes different sound, comes from a different family, has different capabilities and constraints. They are asked, the conductors, to coordinate different musicians, helping them create a common result. It's a demanding labor. Conductors must constantly engage in revealing the value of the music work as more powerful than their own authority. Same educators are asked to connect, moderate, and inspire their great orchestra every day, their class, so that it plays real music. We all know, though, that being a teacher, a doctor, or a parent can easily lead you to authoritarianism. They say that when a school is built, a prison is torn down. I believe that when a good school is built, then a prison is torn down indeed. But there are schools, often very prestigious ones, that, in my opinion, become prisons themselves, harming both their students and the society as a whole. The relationship between those in power and the ones that are subject to it is recorded daily for 12 years in the souls of school children and is reproduced in their interpersonal relationships now and in the future. This affects the whole society. Interpreters sometimes don't just perform a work, but they rather become the work. Often when I sing or listen to a song, I don't just listen to it, I live inside it. I become the song, and the song becomes me. Can teachers daily create and protect the conditions for a teaching experience? Can students not just attend the lesson, but be in the lesson? Can teachers and students together become the lesson themselves? Every knowledge we share is there to change through us. Children need to know that they can interfere and change the material so that it stays interesting and useful to them. This is what you said, change the part, change the science, change the music, so that it reflects what I am this moment here. It's very important. This freedom is so creative and important for every person, not just for artists. Tradition is given to us in order for us to change it, so that it stays alive. Tradition is a given frame that we need to break 1,000 times every day in order for it to remain interesting and useful to us, and in order for us to keep it going. Every knowledge and every tradition is a work in progress, just like our world and our lives. Maybe we talk more about tradition later on during our discussion. For now, I just need to say that education and tradition are most of the time one and the same for me. They both give us a way to understand the world and ourselves inside it. They give us the tools to survive, tools that were discovered or invented by all humans that preceded us. Both of them have their ways to be transmitted from generation to generation, and both of them need to constantly change through us. A torch carrier gives his torch to the next, trusting her to carry it further, right? As soon as he passes it on, he has no more control over it. I believe that we should keep this consciousness. I often ask myself a very difficult question. Do we really give knowledge to our children to help them prosper in their future? Or do we give it in order for us to keep existing through them after we're gone, prolonging even our failures that we load them with? Are we just buying off a hopeless illusion of immortality with disastrous consequences for our children? I hope not, but I'm not sure either. Every seed holds inside the knowledge of its origin and its destination. As soon as it finds some soil and water, it flourishes. So let's give our children soil and water. Our children are thirsty for respect, truth, recognition. They seek a clear mirror in our eyes to see the miracle inside them. Having lived in comparison, oppression, rejection, or praise, through their constant search for acceptance and connection, they have the need for us to just see them, to see their special beauty and the powers they hold.
I don't think the adults are any different.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think
Of course. Yeah, we're still children, all of us. Yeah, you're right, Helga. Every child or every person has a power, a point to which we can connect a secret language. Although sensitive and fragile, the children especially, they are also powerful since they own what we are missing and what's more valuable, life ahead. How to approach them? In order to transmit our knowledge, we need a bridge. Our children live where we are not, in the land of tomorrow. How do we get to the other side to reach them? The only bridge we have is connection, which can never be faked. Children have a lie detector. The connection is invisible, inexplicable, and has no manual. It can be built by a glance, a word, a gesture. It is built on our recognition of the clear and integral part of the other person under all the difficult expressions it may take. It is based on the humble acceptance that the other person is valuable and necessary to us in order for us to exist. A good teacher is a teacher who loves and respects children unconditionally. Her acceptance is what makes her solve the puzzle so that each day she can invent ways and places of freedom, even in the cage. Children's gratitude is a non-negotiable quality, generously given by them to anyone who deserves it. I will close with an excerpt from the poet Khalil Gibran, who says, "Your children are not yours. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but don't come from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their soul dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backwards, nor tarries with yesterday."
Okay, I thought that I said already that it would be possible to moderate these two extraordinary people next to me. But now I'm having the added problem of the incredible difficulty of moderating my thoughts. I came here, I didn't even, because we're rushing to get in, it's madness, this weather, and I did not have with me even a pen or a notebook. And I thought, oh my God, what am I gonna do? My memory is so terrible, it's not gonna manage. And then Alkinoos gave me a notebook and a pen, and that actually made it worse. because I have some notes here. I made notes of things that were said, not my thoughts about what was said. Hopefully thinking, aspiring that I could somehow synthesize them and give you some questions or some points to proceed further. I'm not sure we'll do that, we'll see. The first thing I can say, because it's the first thing, one of the first things that you said, Helga, may have been the first thing. You talked about ways of living. And later on, this mess of life. So I thought ways of living in this mess of life, like this should really be our motto and our guide. Not just about art or what, being artists, but really literally what it says, creating ways of living in this mess of life. And this came to resonate in a kind of uncanny way when, you said also fairly early that, again, it was in your beginning, that for you making music is always listening to music, that writing a song is listening to a song. And I thought that that very process of making equals listening is in fact exactly that, creating ways of life in this messy world. I want us to think more about listening, what listening means in the way that we relate to each other, how listening is linked to sharing, which both of you pointed to. Sharing oftentimes against the grain, across disparate, let's say, spheres of people who might not get along or might not want to get along or might even be enemies, what this means. Sharing, of course, also within even the familiar territories, in the most intimate sense. You spoke, of course, very clearly of families, but I think across the range. So listening is something that it's a creative thing. It seems to me both of you would agree, and it is linked to making. And then, which is also, I should say, the meaning of poetry for me, from the literal Greek word voices, which is really, it means to make, not to write the ones. So making then and listening, it was again in my kind of crazy mind linked to play. To play in the way that you put it, very funny that I had not considered that at least in most of the languages you say, theater and music are characterized by this part, but the other arts are not. That's really a shame. We have to change that. A play leads me to conduction in a very kind of big, as you like to think, Helga, inside way, kind of internal way. And I thought, I've heard you speak about conduction before, but I thought, you know, conduction is a very interesting word because it is, of course, a word that is linked referentially to energy. And to just kind of this kind of energy, a kind of conflagration of energies, right? A rapid rise of something from something else. Which is really an incredible way to determine and define spontaneous composition, what people call spontaneous composition, which is also one of my favorite terms. What does it mean to compose from nothing, in the moment, always with others? I didn't say anything that destructive. Nature, I did something there, but no. No, I mean, really, right? I mean, the spontaneous composition is a kind of interesting paradox, alleged paradox. It's not real paradoxical, because something is spontaneous means it's not planned, it has not been thought out in advance, it's not theoretical. It's not yet planned. It's not planned. We'll go back to the beginning, but composition suggests a certain kind of bringing things together, things that might be disparate. So how does one bring together things that are disparate without having planned to do so, along with others who are different? This is really the heart again of the play, making listening, and the other thing that, Helga, you said that really revealing for me, both of you talk about revealing things and uncovering things. When you talked about what it means for you to do this song, and you said that in a way, doing the song this way was kind of saying a no, or creating a no inside this piece and its significance. And yet you also said at the same time, and this is really beautiful, that it is also a calling. So how does one move from saying no to making a calling? Same time. So at the same time, it's not two different things. You refuse, you break, you disrupt, you decompose, while creating avenues for sharing, calling people to come together. And this is profound. That's truly profound. And if there is a meaning to the music of the oppressed, it would have to be just, it could be only just that. And the last thing, which I think goes together, again, these things are favorites of mine. We had no plan, okay? We didn't discuss anything in advance. I had no idea what they're gonna say, but they are saying things that I love. That you said no guarantees, no safety nets, right? Which makes art dangerous, even at times at the cost of people's own lives, that dangerous. So we cannot forget that aspect, that whatever we say, it's not some fancy little, I don't know, romantic thing, but something that is quite urgent and dangerous. I want to keep this notion present, a certain kind of urgency and a certain kind of risk which is inherent in the process of playing. So playing is fun, yes, but it's also a risk, and kids know that. We as we stupidly don't want to be kids, we forget it. Anyway, so I could have specific questions. One question, it really is how we move from the no to the calling. That's something I want to hear more from you on. I want to hear more about listening. But I don't know, I'm not gonna ask direct questions. I don't really know how to do that. I was kind of replaying, if I can say that, some of the things you said, and kind of bring them together. And okay, tradition, you said that we could discuss tradition more.
Yeah.
And hopefully we could do that in the process.
It's in the title.
Yeah. It's a good touch, yeah. We don't have to obey titles.
One thing I want to make sure I don't forget is that if we're speaking present day about music of the oppressed, we can't not have a conversation about gentrification. And I live on the other side of the park. I cannot tell you how many people I run into on the train who think that Columbia is not in Harlem. And that's a whole other conversation. And so what happens, and what has been happening, particularly on my side of the park, is that we have a community that's being gentrified rapidly. And then the people who move in make the rules for the people who are there and who have been there. And we have, for instance, a drum circle in what is now Marcus Garvey Park. That drum circle was happening for 50 years. And then the people who moved in to those brownstones around Mount Morris Park began to call the police and say, these people are making noise. This is not acceptable. I pay my, and then it becomes a very, very powerful and awful conversation to try and have. And it means then that in this very fundamental way in which communities make music, make ways to respond to the environment around them, we already have another thing that's happening that doesn't even allow them to gather. So we don't gather. Now there's a determination about which bodies are allowed to make sound and which ones aren't. What sound they actually end up making must also be controlled. And this breaking apart for me is not any different than what happened, and I'll just speak about African Americans in this moment, during the transatlantic crossing. It is absolutely no different. And so you had this man in the middle of the brothers and sisters who made sure that there was no tactile communication between them, that they would not remember one another. And it is the same thing that's happening with music as it relates to gentrification in my neighborhood. Because now we're not even able to gather. We used to be outside on the fire escape. Someone would play a radio. Everybody would know the song. We would sing the song, and then people would go back inside. But we had the ability to gather and decide what music we wanted to make between each other. And that is disappearing. And then the music now is confined to these spaces that are not visited by the community because it is seen as their music. And all of this is problematic, and it is, and gentrification absolutely has a role to play in the music of the oppressed not being made and not being heard.
so nice to listen to him.
Yes, we need some silence after 6 weeks.
After she sings.
Yeah, always, of course. Maybe it could be a chance for you to speak about, this is very similar actually to the town with the water. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is in some ways quite similar.
So, yeah, okay, it's.
You don't have to,
No, of course I wanna speak, it's my village. You know, my city is Nicosia, Cyprus, and my village is in another country. In Greece, it's a very small unknown village called Staiates in central Greece, up on the mountain, very close to the sea, though, on a peninsula called Ilion, which is a paradise. Anyway, we moved there. We moved to Paradise with my family back in September 2018, and we stayed there for 5 years. Last September, we moved back to Cyprus. I'm saying back to Cyprus because I left Cyprus 34 years ago, and now I returned. Anyway, while living in Ilion, we met these people, this small, very small village called Staiates, as I said, which only has 70 or 80 residents. And it is not a famous village, it is not touristic, it has no market, no gas station, no commercial stores, no. It's just beautiful. It's the street that goes there, this little road is a dead end, so it's not a passage to the other more glamorous villages of the area. What this village has, though, is it's water. It was built about 300 years ago next to a wonderful spring with really good water. And this is why it was built there, actually, in the first place. And since then, the people's lives, their everyday lives and their tradition have been around this spring and around water. Generation after generation, they learned how to keep the spring clean or clean themselves sometimes when it's needed, to how to bring to restore every time the network that always has problems, that brings the water to the village, how to respect the water, how to share it. And also they have these beautiful festivals on the spring, and now they do their festivals in the village. Anyway, their life is the water. And they also have another characteristic, which I liked very much. They have this assembly. The whole village decides every time about everything. So yeah, so these 78 people, most of them at least, gather in the old school, which it doesn't work as a school anymore because there are no kids, and they decide about everything. And they have a president, a representative, a local representative, who they call the president. But no one really cared who the president was because he only had one vote, like everybody else, and his role was to represent the village to the municipality of Volos, which is the nearby city. And one day, a newly elected president, I think it was, yes, it was 2018. What happened? They had a new president. This president stopped representing the village to the city, to the municipality, and started representing. He got himself out of the assembly, of course, and he started representing the municipality to the village. The villagers always felt, were afraid that people wanted to sell their water to an idiot, which is the Greek word for private investor, who would bottle the water and sell it. And they started chlorinizing their water. They had problems. Anyway, to cut a long story short, one day their water stopped flowing to their houses. And when they opened their faucets, another water came out, ran out of it. And what happened was that the municipality with
With the license.
With the license of the president,
Yeah.
cut the water from the villagers. And since then, we had many problems. The whole village was bullied and terrified by the mayor himself, who would go out on the village in hours where young people were not there because they were outside, and he would bully the old people and talk back to old women and all that stuff. And we had all different kinds of problems. And me personally, he had a press conference where he called all the residents of Stygiadis faggots, and me personally malakas, which is the Greek word for someone who masturbates too much, although it doesn't clarify how much is too much. Anyway, he tried to take us to court. He had no case. We had all the problems. And I wrote this song about the water of Stygiadis. And then it was just a song I sang in the festival of the village. And then suddenly, friends from Volos, a very famous and very good orchestra, which is called Studiantina, asked me if I wanted to record it with them live in the square of the village. So from just a solo performance, then we were just a company, a whole company of people with children of the area singing. And then this same song was recorded by other artists in Athens, by people I didn't know in person. And that made the whole thing even more important to us. Very well-known artists and musicians and singers recorded the whole, and it was so moving seeing one song, because it had a real reason to be there, and people were really oppressed, and they still are until today, unfortunately. To see this song flourish and go from one person to all this, and of course the song is not mine because it's written for their water, for their struggle, and you see how a song works. It was a great experience. I don't know why I was talking about it.
Because I was trying to, well, I'm trying to figure a way to find intersections between you. You can do this yourself, you don't need me. But I thought this is a classic case of where something that is traditional, and the community is built around ways of living. It's not what Helga is describing. She's describing ways of living that go back, in fact, centuries. That's what you said. But in Harlem, certainly by a century, and that are being disrupted, are actually not just simply disrupted, they're being prohibited by incursions of people with money. I mean, because the connection is similar in that sense. The village is being exploited the same way that the neighborhood is being exploited for those who have money, who don't have no connection to the place, and they destroy the ways of living of that place. That's why I thought the two things, from such different places and so on, actually resonate. So here again we are dealing with a tradition, and as something, as we said, is a struggle that it's a daily struggle. Tradition is not something that you have and you put in a box or in a closet and you lock it up and you use it whenever you want to. It's a living thing that you are struggling with. You have to keep it going. You have to change it. It's what you did. You have to even destroy it, as you said, in order to be able to create it. You said that too.
Yeah.
So I thought that somehow these things, that's why I suggest.
I
But-
think
but-
also more fundamentally, the idea of actions are really powerful. Yesterday, I went with a friend, Oliver Beer, who is a visual artist. And he's working on a sound map of New York City. And he said, do you have a place where we can go? And so I took him to the overpass at 111th Street. So you know that used to be the markets there under, on Park Avenue. And so we went into one of the little tunnels and just sang tones. We were there for an hour or so. And you can't imagine how beautiful just the sound. And I'm not talking about having to sing something. I'm saying to put whatever voice you have into a space. And in that moment, we created another place of transference for people to get from Park Avenue to Madison Avenue, to get from the east side of 111th Street to the west side of 111th Street. And we didn't talk to anyone. We didn't ask anyone's permission, and we didn't need for anyone to like what we were doing. We were simply making an offering in a space that was available. And every space is available to us, every single one. And so if that is true, or if you take its premise as true, then what sound can we make right where we are? And it doesn't have to be a big splashy thing, but you can give someone something that they hear and they have for 30 seconds. And then they're moving into a different space with whatever they brought into the day, with whatever they're going home to. But for a moment, they have a different experience with sound that comes from a human experience, which then touches their human experience. And all of these things are possibilities for all of us in every moment.
So we have a conversation and then make some sounds? Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that,
Sounds and conversations and
yeah.
sounds through conversations.
Let's take some questions and thoughts, not to me, obviously to my wonderful friends here, and then they will make some sounds. Right here. Thoughts? Mr. Caleb.
First of all, thank you guys. This is amazing. I don't think I need to.
You did lose.
Anyway, so I'm gonna age myself a little bit here. I'm of the age that I saw, I actually witnessed hip hop coming out the womb. And what that means is that I remember folks used to gather in the park. And it was super spontaneous, there was nothing planned, which was so great, amazing. Guys, a DJ would get a turntable, 2 turntables, he'd get a cord, plug it into someone's window upstairs, someone bring the people, oh yeah, someone would get to create the records. And before you know it, there was a huge party in the park. The whole community would be outside, and everybody would jam and rock and just having a blast. The kids outside. So there was a community there. And then, like you said, you know, as time went on, that police and the authorities and folks were not having, you know, so it started happening less and less. Now it doesn't happen at all. And I miss that. And then when you were talking about the fire escape and some of your downstairs neighbors just jamming out, your upstairs neighbor, those some of the most amazing times of my life. I remember those things. And it's not just about music, it's not just about art, it's about community. It's about having a place, where you feel like you belong. And the fact that that's being taken away and that there are people saying you don't belong here, that doesn't belong here, is a damn shame, because I mean, everyone loses, and I just, you brought back those memories, and I really, really miss that. Like crazy. Thank you for calling that back out. It's been a long time since I thought about that, because life happens.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it just brought back some amazing memories from my past, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you both so much. I'm interested in this idea of tradition and how we break tradition. Obviously, your amazing piece is a performance and a practice all of that in a way, through song and through voice. I also want to turn that question to Alkinoos and sort of ask how all the different ways that he has done that, because the other day we were having a conversation with a secret friend of mine in New York City, and she was saying, oh, which secrets do you think have been very like impactful and influential? And I was sitting there like in this very busy restaurant with about like very young people crowded around me. Oh, I don't know, I have to think about it. It's definitely not the politicians. Then the next day we were watching a podcast with you, and I thought, oh my God, Alkinoos is one of them, because in our context of our little, not so little island, that it's what he's done, what you've done with tradition, not only in terms of, you know, the folk and traditional music of the island, but how you always speak back and against sort of hegemonic kind of cultural nationalist sounds, discourses, and so on and so forth, but in a way that has managed to have such an impact and become in a way its own, I don't want to say tradition, but it has become a mainstay, I think, for contemporary secret culture in a way that has opened the eyes of a lot of people through that work. So I just wanted to hear you talk a little more about all the different ways and perhaps how that's changed the way you push back against tradition, or how you mold it, how you work with it.
Okay. Yes. I was never an expert in traditional music or something like that. I never really studied it seriously, although I tried. And we didn't listen much of it at home when I was a kid. We mostly listened to my father's albums that were classical or Greek music of 70s or 60s. Anyway, but maybe because of this, I decided for myself that tradition is not what was delivered to us, but is mostly what will be delivered by us. It's a promise towards the future and not an action of the past. So I was free to do whatever I liked, you know, when so for me, tradition is this is a power that comes from the past, of course, like everything, because we think that tradition belongs to the past. It's something that needs to be preserved and, you know, put it in a museum and pay a ticket to see it every Sunday, I don't know. But everything comes from the past. The universe comes from the past. Is it traditional? I don't know. So tradition comes from the past, finds us in its way, includes us, and thus changes, because there's no one else like us. So we change tradition, all of us, just by living, and rushes towards the future. So it's a power that rushes towards the future for me. And this helped me very much approach tradition in a way that was interesting and creative for me. I respect it so much, and because I respect it, I feel free with it. It's like love, you know, like love. You can't make love without respect and love and freedom. You need both freedom and respect at the same time. So traditions like we have to be free with it and at the same time respect it. But if you really respect it, then you give it yourself, and if you give it yourself, you change it, and you have to change it. Otherwise, it's like you never existed, which is, I don't know if there are sins in the world, but if there are, it would be the worst sin.
The worst.
Sin.
Of the citizens. But I think if I may,
You do, you may.
you also, and I have an interesting question that relates to this, it's almost a contradiction, right? In terms of tradition. I feel like what you just described is a snowball effect, right? So tradition starts in the past. And do you build on it as it comes to, it hits you, and then you build on it and it continues to grow so that as it moves forward? That's not what you're saying.
No. Yeah. No, I'm not saying that. I don't believe it grows.
You just believe
I
it
just believe
changes.
that it's a river. It's
It
a
passes
river,
through.
A past.
a river that comes.
Passes through.
Yeah, that passes through you.
And yet, people from the past,
Uh-huh.
traditions, let's say,
Yeah.
enjoy this change that you make. It
I,
almost encompasses some of the traditions of the past, like it runs through, but it doesn't, like hip hop. You can't say what you listen to today is the hip hop that you grew up with, right?
Let's do it all, actually.
Exactly, right? It's crap. So that tradition has changed completely, and it's almost offensive, for lack of a better word, to those that love the original tradition.
absolutely.
But in your case,
Nobody killed me yet. I don't know. I don't know if you like that.
Stop. No, but people don't, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like his, and that's what you're saying, right? That by keeping the tradition sort of alive and going, he's created this new form of tradition that everyone kind of gets
And
around.
he introduced and kind of reinvigorated and helped people in the grips of nationalist frenzy be able to embrace certain parts of, you know, where you're from without having that, precisely by making it something different.
Mhm.
I think that would be.
Helga, do you want to say something about this matter? I'm
Uh,
not putting you on the spot.
yeah, which
About
part of
the
this?
tradition, about your sense of how that matters to you, because I know it matters to you. And what you do with it. I mean, you don't have to, I just want to make sure that we are really mixing our views and.
Well, what I like about this conversation is that tradition is not a destination. You don't get there.
Right.
You don't arrive at one place and then whatever you see around you or whatever you brought with you becomes a static,
Right.
indifferent agreement to history. So, do I come from a tradition? I sure do. And that's a little bit what this way of singing this national anthem has to do with. It's all the traditions that touch me in that moment are in that piece of music. So my first music was church music, and then it was classical music on Saturdays. And my teacher was a graduate of both Juilliard and Curtis, but she said she came back to Harlem to teach the Negro children. And the first lesson on that first day was that all music is my music, all of it, not this and that and not that, all of it. And so in some, that is tradition. But she's also saying that all of this music is my tradition, and I can use that through my instrument to make statements, to move some conversation forward. It's not that it doesn't come from anything, it's that it didn't die in a moment.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I
Thank you,
have a question. Now, and no further, so. Right. My question is this, you come from different, you two come from different existential traditions. You have been both classically trained. So your particularities of your existential traditions have actually converged in classical music, where you're trained. And then you just problematize that classical tradition, and you have both made something different out of it. So my question is, where do these two different trajectories of tradition find each other when you meet each other musically?
Cool, we should sing our song.
Yeah, the response to that is definitely practice, performance.
So you have these pages here. Which one of the pages has the poem and the color?
Yeah, it's more of a question, because something that Nina said, maybe she
Yeah.
is, you know, we talk about experience, right? Experience molds and shapes tradition. All of you have different, like you said, different musical backgrounds. But one thing that I've noticed about what you're saying, this is the language of the oppressed with music. One thing that's a common thread is the people that make the best music are in pain, because they've had some form of pain or struggle. So it's just, to me, like, when I hear everyone talk about, you know, the river and the ebb and flow of tradition, it's really molded and shaped on your experiences or what you actually have endured, whether it be in the city or whether it be in different countries. So for me, I'm just saying, like, to say that tradition doesn't have no beginning, or it's just a free-flowing river, it's something that you add on to that particular facet of wherever you're at in that place in life. Whatever inspired you to make music, whether you were in the penitentiary and you decided that was your outlet or your vehicle to purge when you get home, or whether you were trying to be an aspiring musician to be the best at your craft. So for me, there has to be some form of beginning and end. It can't be like there is the traditional sense of things, if you want to say it like that, whether it's anything that you go through, is that for me, listening to different genres of music, the people that make the best music are the oppressed. Because they're going through something that has inspired them to add on to a tradition that has left our people behind.
I don't think we disagree.
Okay, well, when he said, well, I think someone has said that it's there's no beginning of tradition, or you can't put a tradition in a box and put it in a museum and buy a ticket, that it's a free-flowing river.
Alkinoos said that.
But it's something that you have to be able to add on to, because that creates your own sense of tradition. Whatever experience you have gone through. So in a sense, there is a stopgap between each tradition, because rock music, there was a whole bunch of things that went behind that. There was a whole bunch of people wanted to strike Kent State. There's a whole bunch of facets in history that have been inspired by music. And even hip hop, when it was revolutionary, and even with the young people with drill music. They're explaining their truth that's going in real time today, and no one is listening. So for me,
You
it's
think
like,
that's true?
oh,
I think anybody's
no
listening.
one's listening. To that genre of music, there's a very small minority that is actually listening. And that's why there's still a propensity of violence to keep going out and perpetuate as a result, and that's their outlet in order to purge and sell their souls. Because it is a storytelling as well as music, so it's really,
Thank you.
you know, I just think that's.
Hey, everybody's got a little suitcase, that's the first one.
You're all happy?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let me give you some. Thank you.
I am going right on down. I am going right on down. I am going right on down the road. My life, my joy, my fear, my anger. All of these I take with me. I'm on my way to tomorrow. Una paz que una επιστρέψει, που είναι τα ξένα μακρινά κι είναι τα δικά μας ξένα και πού να επιστρέψει. Right on down. Η βαλίτσα και βάρια γεμάτη με τρακίνια είναι το εμπρός ανήλια μου. Right on down. Σκληρό το σου και πού να σ' my joy, my fear, my anger. Η κρυβαλίτσα κι αδιάλογα take with me. I'm on my way to tomorrow, somewhere around the bend. Tomorrow lies somewhere around. Tomorrow lies somewhere around my joy, my faith, my anger, my hopes, my dreams, my struggle for change. I'm on my way
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. A lot of energy, you know?
Wow.
And like, this is part of the information also,
Yes.
that we have, this is information about where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go. Is not any different than someone catching the spirit in a Pentecostal church. It's the same energy that needs an outlet, that has to move. And so now it's in my body, it's in my hands. Also because I sang sitting down. So then
Super sexy.
sexy. You gonna get me in trouble with Wow.
Oh, okay.
So what would this look like if you included other traditions? So if you invited people who don't play guitar, but they drum, what would you do with that, right?
Okay, we got friends here who.
We do have friends with
With
bands, yeah,
percussion, yeah.
we do.
You wanna say something about it?
I am not, I am only going to say, you're not going to play? You're not going to play? All right, so, Cedric Blackwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cedric Blackwell is, returned citizen, we said. Cedric was my student at Sing Sing, and he and Ivan learned music together at Sing Sing through one of the programs that makes.
We created music at Sing Sing. We were always musicians, and we created music. We didn't learn music at Sing Sing.
I did, he did that. He is a drum extraordinaire. He
Thank-
was already a drum extraordinaire.
We started off with the.
Thank you, Ivan. This wouldn't be Cedric if you did not correct me.
Well, then again, that's what being a student was all about, and you're like, follow me back.
Exactly, that's exactly what it was. I have a lot of students. So,
First time.
Next time would be first. I would go.
It's not bad.
Ivan, you're not going to take it? No?
You don't.
Well, I've been too low. I said, yeah, I've been too.
We should raise the microphones from the table.
I'm gonna sit right here.
Yeah,
What do you mean for the sound?
Yeah.
Okay. So the world has gone wild. So the world has gone wild. So the world has gone wild like a bubbling cauldron, like the blood that keeps on flowing like hazy sweat. We're now bewildered, and our laughter seems to something behind. When I look at the diet, I know that there is nothing. I was in the middle of the fire. I was the fire. So that in my eyes, I saw the war, face to face. Time, the race betrayed inside. The ultra patriot side, who held my mother with the rifle in her mouth. Their children today are sitting in the Senate.
Είδα όνεις οφανώς ένας παππούς από τις μία της τη δράμα πρόσφυγας πήγε να βουλγάρει τη σφαίρα και ο άλλος και γλυκά στη μάτια από το και κάποιος στα οποία τον κόψαν οι Ναζί ήταν η συμφωσία τα βουλιά της Σερβίας στο τελικό να πάσαν στο ξενοδοχείο. Αμερικάνικες βόμβες και εγώ να κοιμάμαι αύριο θα κρατηθά γιατί αστροφή.
If now, holding a cup of grapes as the bombs were coming down. I saw thousands of parachutes in the sky, just like stains. My father was saying to take the Friday oath.
That's what you were having to me. You were having to.
How beautifully they are falling.
Είδα κομμάτια με το κρέας μας στα μπαζαμιάς πόλης, είδα τα χέρια, τα σπίτια πεταμένα στη γη, είδα να τρέχει στον δρόμο με τα παιδιά του στον δρόμο και φωτογραφιστικά στο βίντεο και
I saw thousands of parachutes in the sky, just like stains. My father was saying, I stood next to the Friday oath. Look how beautiful they are falling. Look how beautifully they are falling. Look how beautifully they are falling. Look.
No, I think we're gonna stand back. I think how are we doing?
Well, it's 8:05.
How much more time do you have?
We don't.
We don't.
If you want to take
All instructions.
Thank you, everyone.
No. If there are more questions, we can take more questions.
I yield my question for a song.
Well, no.
You want me to play the song I wrote for the village, for the water?
Which we could type here, but.
I will have the translation, yeah.
Yeah, no.
But you already said what it's about.
Because I was thinking that protest song or political song, as we call it in Greece, is usually epic and, you know, sometimes angry. But the hymn of the Zapatistas in Mexico is a waltz, a very happy waltz. I was wondering why, because they have been in war, I don't know how. Anyway, so I decided to write a happy song. Το νερό όταν στα γιάτο δεν έχει. Όποιος το πίνει βολεύει κι αντέχει. Δεν τα αγοράζω, δεν πεινώ, μα με κερνάς και στο κερνό. Σαν το νερό όταν στα γιάτο δεν έχει. Κυλάει στις πέτρες και στο κόμμα τρέχει. Κορμούς ποτίζει και κορμάκια βρέχει. Κορίτσια, χώρια, καρυφιές, ελιές, πλατάνια και οξιές. Κορμούς ποτίζει και κορμάκια βρέχει. Απ' τον αιώνα την πηγή καρπρακυπά, δροσίζει το άγριο και το υπόσχεται ξανά. Μα εγώ και τώρα πανεύω μέσα απ' τη κούφτα σου τα πιω. Ζωή να γίνει ζωή σε μια δουλειά, σαν το νερό των σταγιάτων δεν έχει. Όποιος το πίνει πολεμάει κι αντέχει, δεν τα αγωνάζονται πουλό, να με κερνάς και στο κερνό. Όποιος το πίνει πολεμάει κι αντέχει, σαν το νερό των σταγιατών δεν έχει.
We want more songs. I'm gonna say, as the representative of this huge island of Mediterranean Sea, we need another song from you. Because this notion of the 30 seconds interruptions, which is the title that we played with Wilde's Theatre of the Oppressed and the spectator, what the spectator could be in disrupting narratives, and it's just that 10 seconds is just that tiny whistle. So we need your voice again. You know, Nelly said the experience with hearing her singing Kabafi was divine. And I'm very mean usually. And she was divine. So that was divine. Please, can we have another song from you? And from you,
No,
you're,
I'm done.
no, you need a Cypriot tradition. So you need a Sharon Basman as well. So,
These are some bossy folks.
We have a demanding audience.
So I don't actually have another song, but either that. But what I think would be nice is if we sang together. So what could that look like?
Yes.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Because this is exactly the conversation we're trying to have. What is that anyway? What's singing or not singing? We're gonna make some sound. Don't be afraid.
I'm afraid it is.
So just hum, everybody. Don't try and sing what the person next to you sings.
Sometimes humming is more difficult than
Just,
singing.
it doesn't matter, don't argue. And it's your body sounding. Yes, Mother.
I wasn't planning on making a comment.
You're making my point.
But, having lived once in a confined space. Where music was essential to survival. I believe that we can dash away vocabulary that we use to feebly attempt to describe what music does, what it is, and why. I think what just happened is what music is. It is this thing that is completely organic and does what it does. We're just the vessel that does it through. And just as we saw, it begins and ends exactly when it wants to. No one said stop singing, no one said, these were hand gestures that no one knew meant louder or and that is music of the oppressed. The oppressed are the vehicle, and the sound are totally organic from wherever they are. Be it pain, be it joy, be it happiness. And I don't think any rules or restrictions or boundaries or changes to the world will ever be able to contain or stop that. And that is music.
That's right.
I think it's time to feed everyone. So,
Then you almost burned the house today.
That was the sound of many.
The alarm started.
okay, before we all go downstairs to have food together, that I made almost burning the house today. I just want to make one more announcement. That is that on the 17th of the month, on Wednesday, April 17th, Nitush Ankuchi, who sits back there, and who is a visiting student from Paris, from West Point, and she's doing a comparative project on Ellis Island and letters. Is going to do, we're going to have a workshop on her work, where Professor Noor Ben-Yehuda and Mia Reuter, who is sitting right there, they're going to be the respondents. So this will be from 6 to 8 here on April the 17th. And then don't forget to check the Hellenic Studies program announcements for Alkinoos' next performances, and also a discussion that Staffers will have with Kay Vika. They obviously say the whiz kid, but he's not a kid anymore, of electronic acoustic. And he's also going to have a performance.
Yeah,
right?
yes, this is the whole week, starting on the 15th to the 22nd.
Will be
Every day there is an event. So with all the.
that is still with Chris.
Yes, in some fashion or other, very, very different things. Everything is very, very different.
So join us, and thank you all for coming this year to Justice Forum, and thank you, Sylvia, for doing the impossible work.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time. And we hope to see you next year, Justice Forum, with a full program that we already have almost in place. Thank you so
And my
much.
podcast is called Helga.
Yes, yes. Yep. WNYC.
If you just Google Helga podcast, I will visit you immediately.
Thank you so
Thank you.
so
Thank you very much.